Hello everyone, this is the video walkthrough of passage 2 from Kemper 16, test 3. Today's passage is about climate change, reveals ancient artifacts in Norway's glaciers. Okay, cool. As usual, we will read the passage first and then we'll move to the questions. Well above the tree line in Norway's highest mountains, ancient fields of ice are shrinking, are disappearing, are dying out, we can say, as the earth climate warms. Okay. As the ice has vanished, it has been completely disappeared, it has been giving up the treasures it has preserved in cold storage for the last 6,000 years. Items such as ancient arrows and skis from the Viking Age traders. And those artifacts have provided archaeologists with some surprising insights into how ancient Norwegians made their livings. Okay, let's start. An explanation for weapons being left behind in the mountains. Like, was there an explanation for us about how they were left? I don't think so. There wasn't an explanation being as to how the weapons were being left. A reference to the physical difficulties involved in archaeological expedition. No, there is no reference into how something was difficult. An explanation of why less food may have been available, okay. A reference to the possibility of future archaeological discoveries. Examples of items that would have been traded. And the next one, a reference to the pressure archaeologists are under to work quickly. Uh, so I didn't really see any information related to it, and I think it's better to skip it, yeah? Okay, let's continue. There's no information from the paragraph A. And what about this one? Question 2022, interesting findings at an archaeological site. We gotta write only one word. Organic materials such as animal skins and textiles are not discovered very often at archaeological sites. They have little protection against something. Okay, cool. And which two following statements does the writer make about discoveries or Barrett's something? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Let's continue. Paragraph B. Organic material like textiles and hides are relatively rare to find, are finds at archaeological sites. This is because unless they are protected from the microorganisms that cause decay again, cherish, okay? And they tend not to last, I think, not to last long. Extreme cold is one reliable way to keep artifacts relatively fresh for a few thousand years, but once thawed out, yes, these materials experience degradation relatively swiftly. O'sha muz erib kelgandan keyin, ular saqlanib bo'lgandan keyin, u materiallar juda ham tez darajada yovib ketar ekan, okay? Chirib ketar ekan materiallar. With climate change shrinking ice cover around the world, glacial like archaeologists need to raise the clock. Raise the clock degan juda ham tez harakat qilish kerak ekan. To find newly revealed artifacts. Yangi artefaktni topgani. Preserve them and study them. If something fragile dries and is windblown, it might very soon be lost to science. Or an arrow might be exposed and then covered again by the next snow and remain well preserved. The unpredictability means that glacial archaeologists have to be systematic in their approach to field work. Kutilmaganligi shuni anglatadiki, o'sha arxeologlar judayam bir planga stick qilish kerak o'zlarini ishlarida deganlar bor ekan. So the passage itself talked about the difficulty and it said they have to raise the clock to find newly revealed artifacts, and if they're not going to do it, it might be it might be a loss to science, you know. There was one thing related to it, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. Yes, physical difficulties involved in an archaeological expedition. So the answer for the question 15 is gonna be B. Okay, let's continue reading. What about this one? Animal skin textiles. Did we read about this one? Very discard not discarded very often at archaeological sites. They have little protection against something. We read about this one. Okay, this is because unless if they're not protected from the microorganisms that cause decay, they tend not to last. So the answer for the question 20 is going to be microorganisms. Okay, we found the answer for the question 20. Now let's move on and talk about this one. Open. We haven't read about open. It's coming from here. Let's continue. Over a 9-year period, a team of archaeologists, which included Lars Pillow of Oppland County Council, Norway, and James Barrett of the MacDonald Institute for Archaeological Research, surveyed the patches of ice in Oppland, in an area of south central Norway that is home to some of the country's highest mountains. Rain there once congregated, yeah, on these ice patches in the later summer months to escape the beating insects. Yeah, it wanted to escape the insects. So this reindeer buğu ice patch'de yashab yurgan samirlarda va o'sha paytda qochishi kerak bo'lgan или qochishi xohlagan deyiladi. O'sha biting insektlardan, hasharotlardan chaqadigan, like chivinlar va hokazolar. And from the late Stone Age, hunters followed. Okay. In addition, trade roads threaded through the mountain pass of Upland, linking settlements in Norway to the rest of Europe. Okay, let's read it. A team of archaeologists have been working the mountains in Upland in Norway to recover artifacts revealed by shrinking ice cover. In the past, there were trade roads through these mountains, and something gathered there in the summer months to avoid being attacked by. And um gathered like congregated. I think that's more of a synonym with it. Reindeer reindeer gathered there in the summer months to avoid being attacked by biting insects. Yeah, only insects on lower ground. So it meant here they congregated, yeah, they gathered on this icy patch in later summer. Yozda ular o'sha ice patchda chiqib ketibdi, muzlarga chiqib ketibdi tepadan tog' uchlariga chaqadigan insektlardan qochish uchun. That's it. Perfect. And let's continue reading. Okay, the slow but steady movement of glaciers tends to destroy anything at their bases. So the team focused on stationary patches of ice, mostly above 1,400 meters. That ice is found amid fields of frost-weathered boulders, fallen rocks, and exposed bedrock that for 9 months of the year is buried beneath snow. Okay. Um, there was Barrett, yeah. Okay. Artifacts found in higher mountains pass were limited to skiing equipment. No, that's not really the answer. Hunters went to the mountains even during periods of extreme cold. Did they talk about it? I don't think so. The number of artifacts from certain periods was relatively low. No. Radiocarbon dating of artifact produced some unreliable results. More artifacts were found in Oakland than at any other mountain site. I don't think we have started this, question yet. Okay. An explanation of weapons being left behind in the mountains? No. An explanation of why? No. Possibility? No. Examples of items that would have been traded? No. A reference to a pressure. Pressure calls under to work quickly. Wait a minute, guys. Wait a minute. The answer for the question 19 is gonna be B. That's gonna be B. Because they talked about pressure, yeah? Like in the paragraph B, they talked about pressure, but not the physical difficulties involved in an archaeological expedition. So now the answer for the question 15 is gonna be C, because that's kind of a different thing. Now it's clear why they talked about difficulties. So the difficulties they faced was more of a this one. Let me show it to you. Of the slow but steady movement of glaciers tend to destroy anything at their bases, so the team focused on stationary patches of fire, mostly above this one. That ice is found in emit fields of frost-weathered boulders, fallen rocks, and exposed bedrock that for 9 months of the year is buried beneath snow. That's what they talked about in this paragraph. And also, but this one didn't really talk about it. Yeah. Okay. A reference to physical difficulty involved in an archaeological with expedition. So we are done with this one. Field work is hard work. Also, it's mentioning again here is what hiking with all their equipment, often camping on permafrost, yeah, but very rewarding. You are rescuing archaeology, bringing the melting ice to wider attention, discovering a unique environmental history, and really connecting with the natural environment, says Barrett. Okay, and the next one. At the ages of the contracting ice packs, archaeologists found more than 2,000 artifacts, which form a material record that ran from 4000 BCE to the beginnings of the Renaissance, yeah, in the 14th century. Many of the artifacts are associated with hunting. Hunters would have easily misplaced arrows, and they often discarded broken bows rather than take them all the way home. Yeah, they had been left, yeah, because if the arrow was broken, they just threw it away. Other items could have been used by hunters traversing the high mountain pass of upland, all-purpose items like tools, skis, and horse track. So that was an explanation for weapons being left in the mountains, yeah? The answer for the question 14 is going to be D. If an arrow was broken, they just left it there. We haven't started question 23 to 24 yet. Maybe they are in the upcoming paragraphs. Let's continue. Barrett's radiocarbon dated 153 of the artifacts and compared those dates to the timing of major environmental changes in the region. Such periods of cooling and warming and major social economic shifts, such as the growth of farming settlement and the spread of international trade networks leading up to the Viking Age. They found that some periods had produced lots of artifacts, which indicates that people had been pretty active in the mountains during those times, but there were few or no signs of activity during the other periods. That was, let me see, explain why lesson. Okay, examples of items that would have been traded. That would have been traded. That's not really the case. I mean, I don't think we've got an answer from the paragraph E. Let's skip it. If we don't really have answers, we'll come back to it. Okay, the answer for this one. Artifacts found in high mountains pass were limited to skiing equipment. No, they didn't talk about it actually. What about this one? Hunters went to the mountains even during periods of extreme cold. Of course, the answer for this one is going to be B, because look at this one. So in major social economics, which is not this one, and like it's coming from no, not this one, yeah. It's not really the case. Not B. I was looking at such periods of cooling and warming. No, that's not really the case. The number of artifacts from certain periods was relatively low. Of course, now this is the answer. Look at this one. But there were few or no signs of activity during other periods. That's what the C is telling us. So not yet. Let's continue. What was surprising, according to Barrett, was the timing of these periods. Uplands Mountains present daunting terrain, and in periods of extreme cold, glaciers could block the higher mountain passes and make travel in the upper reaches of the mountain extremely difficult. Now, look at this one. Archaeologists assumed that people would stick to lower elevation during the time, like late Antique Little Ice Age, a short period deeper than usual colds, something. But it turned out that hunters kept regularly venturing into the mountains even when the climate turned cold, based on the amount of stuff they had apparently dropped there. Again, the answer for this one is going to be, because again, it's saying here, it turned out that hunters kept regular venturing into the mountains even when the climate turned cold. Next one. Remarkably, though, the finds from the ice may have contained through this period, perhaps suggesting that the importance of mountain hunting increases supplement failing agricultural harvest in times of low temperature. A colder turn in the Scandinavian climate would likely have meant widespread crop failures, so more people would have depended on hunting to make up for those losses. Okay. There was crop failures, yeah, and people relied on hunting. So, a reference to physical difficult involvement in archaeological expedition? No. An explanation of why less food may have been available? Yes, that's the answer. Yes, there was less food because there was crop failure. That was the main reason. It's explaining as to why. And let's continue. Many of the artifacts Barron's team recovered date from the beginning of the Viking Age, the 70s through to the 19th CE. Trade networks connecting Scandinavia with Europe and the Middle East were expanding around this time. These recent discoveries showed that plenty of goods traveled on overland roads like the mountain passes of Upland and growing Norway towns, along with export markets, would have created a booming demand for hides to fight off the cold. Sovuqdan sovuqga qarshi urishish uchun ularga judayam bir katta demand paydo qilib bergan bo'lardi o'zlarini marketida, as well as antlers to make useful things like comps. Businesses might have been good for hunters. Okay. It's more of a business thing. Let's get back here and do this one. I reference the possibility of future archaeological discoveries, and that's not really the case, yeah. Next one, examples of items that would have been traded. Did it talk about the examples of items that would have been traded? That's interesting. They actually did not really talk about how those things could be traded. No. The answer is not really here. Okay, maybe we're gonna have to read one more paragraph. No, I mean it's either gonna be G. I refer to the possibility of future archaeological discoveries. Although usually we think ships or we think it's kind of expanded, the recent the discoveries show that plenty of goods traveled on overland roads, like the mountain pass on uplands. And growing Norwest towns along with extra markets would have created a booming demand for hides to fight off the colds, as well as antlers to make useful things like comps. Businesses might have survived, might have been good for hunters. Examples of items that would have been traded. Would have been traded. So the answer for this one is going to be G. Now let me explain why. So it's saying and growing not this one yet. This recent discovery showed that plenty of goods traveled on overland roads, like the mountain passes on of upland. And growing Norwegian towns, along with extra markets, would have created a booming demand for hides to fight off the cold. As well as antlers to make useful things like comps. Businesses might have been good for hunters. Like they could have sold comps and they could have created booming demand for hides to fight off the cold, yeah? That's why it's saying examples of items that would have been traded. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the with this one. Let's continue. What about this one? We read about Viking Age. Hunters at this time benefited from an increased demand for goods. Did they actually benefit from an increased demand for goods? Did they? They did actually. It's saying would have created booming demand for hides to fight off the cold, yeah. So the answer is going to be C. The beginning of the new period saw the great growth in the wealth of Vikings. No, that's not given. Vikings didn't rely on ships alone to transport goods. No. Maybe it's from coming from here. Norse mountains are probably still hold a lot of history. and prehistory in remote aspects. When Barrett's team looked at the data for their sample, this artifact, that they noticed a gap with almost no artifacts from 3 to 800,000 this years. In fact, archaeological finds from that period are all over Norway. The researchers say that it could be because many of those artifacts have already disintegrated or are still frozen in the ice. That means archaeologists could be extracting some of those artifacts, retreating ice in the years to come. Okay, okay. I mean, I don't think we had an answer for this one from here. What about here? A reference to the possibility of future archaeological discoveries can be found. Yeah, the answer for this one is going to be H. It's saying that means archaeologists could be extracting some of those artifacts from retreating ice in the years to come. What about from the previous paragraphs? Uh-huh. So everything goes kind of this extent. And overland roads. Uh-huh. Okay, look at this one. Vikings didn't rely on ships alone to transport goods. They also used overland roads like mountains. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching the video. That was a pretty interesting passage with lots of confusions. Yeah. Thank you. See you all again.